Commander Jiho Park walked slowly across the metal floor of the bridge. His boots made quiet sounds with each step. Through the large window in front of him, he could see the beautiful planet Kepler 442b spinning in space. The planet looked like Earth with its blue oceans and green lands. It made him think of home. "Sir, 3 ships are coming close to us," said Lieutenant Mina Kim. She was sitting at her control desk watching the computer screens. Her voice sounded worried. Jiho moved to stand behind her chair. He looked at the screen that showed 3 large ships moving toward their position. Each ship was bigger than a city block back on Earth. The ships were white and clean, with the words New Seoul, Busan Dawn, and Incheon Hope written on their sides in both Korean and English letters. "Those are our colony ships," Jiho said with a small smile. They made it safely. The 3 ships had left Earth 6 months ago. They carried 50,000 people who wanted to start new lives on this distant planet. There were families with young children, old grandparents, scientists, farmers, teachers, and doctors. All of them had sold everything they owned to buy a ticket to the stars. Mina nodded and continued watching her screens. "The ships are sending a message, sir." "Put it on the main screen," Jiho ordered. The face of Captain Dowan Lee appeared on the big screen in front of them. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. Jiho had known him for many years. They had served together in the Earth Navy before joining the colony program. "Jiho, my old friend," Captain Lee said with a big smile. "We made it. The colonists are so excited to see their new home. The planet looks even better than the pictures we saw on Earth." "That's wonderful news, Dowan," Jiho replied. "How are the families doing after the long trip?" "Everyone is healthy and ready to start building. The children keep asking when they can go outside and play on real ground again. Some of them have never seen a real sky before." Jiho smiled. Many of the children had been born on space stations or had lived their whole lives in the crowded cities of Earth. For them, this planet would be the first place they could run free under an open sky. "We'll start landing the first groups tomorrow," Captain Lee continued. "The engineers say the air is perfect for breathing and the soil is good for growing food." Suddenly, Mina's voice cut through their conversation. "Sir, I'm seeing something strange on my screens." Jiho turned to look at her. Her face had gone white and her hands were shaking as she touched the controls. "What is it?" he asked. 12 new ships just appeared from nowhere. They're huge, sir. Much bigger than our colony ships." Jiho looked at the main screen. Captain Lee's face was gone, replaced by a view of space around the planet. 12 black ships hung in the darkness like giant spears. They were long and sharp, covered with weapons that pointed in all directions. The ships looked angry and dangerous. "Those aren't human ships," Mina whispered. Before Jiho could answer, a new voice filled the bridge. It spoke in Korean but with a strange accent that made the words sound cold and cruel. "Small humans. You are in Zilithian space. You must leave now, or we will make you leave." Jiho grabbed the communication device. "This is Commander Park of the Earthship Harmony. These are neutral space lanes according to galactic law. Our people are peaceful colonists. We have the right to be here." The alien voice laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Humans are weak. Humans are stupid. This planet belongs to the Zilithian hegemony now." On the screen, Jiho watched as Captain Lee's ship tried to move away from the alien vessels. The new Seoul was large but slow, built for carrying people and supplies, not for fighting or running away. "Dowan, get out of there," Jiho shouted into his communicator, but it was too late. Bright red beams of light shot out from the alien ships. The beams hit the new Seoul and cut through its metal hull like a hot knife through butter. The ship broke apart in seconds, becoming a cloud of metal pieces and frozen air. "No," Mina screamed. The alien ships turned toward the Busan Dawn. The second colony ship tried to escape, its engines burning bright blue as it attempted to reach the safety of hyperspace. But the alien ships were faster. More red beams lanced out, and the Busan Dawn exploded in a ball of fire. Jiho felt sick to his stomach. Each ship carried more than 15,000 people. Families, children, people who had dreamed of a better life among the stars. The last ship, The Incheon Hope was trying to run in a different direction. Small escape pods shot out from its sides like seeds from a flower. Inside those pods were the people who had managed to reach the emergency stations in time. But the alien ships showed no mercy. Their smaller fighter craft moved between the escape pods, destroying each one with careful, precise shots. Jiho watched in horror as the pods disappeared one by one, each flash of light representing dozens of innocent lives. All ships, emergency, jump to Earth, Jiho commanded, his voice breaking with emotion. Record everything. Earth must know what happened here. As the Harmony escaped into hyperspace, the last thing Jiho heard was alien laughter echoing across the void. The big meeting room in New York was full of people from every country on Earth. President Sun Woo-choi stood at the front, her face serious and sad. Behind her, a huge screen showed pictures from space. The pictures showed broken pieces of metal floating in the dark. These pieces used to be ships full of families. 50,000 people are dead, President Choi said quietly. Her voice was so soft that everyone had to lean forward to hear her. Mothers, fathers, children, grandparents. They went to space to build a better life. Instead, they found death. An old man in a military uniform stood up. This was General Hyunwoo Nam. He had fought in many wars, but his hands were shaking with anger. I talked to the Galactic Council yesterday, he said. They will not help us. They say it was just a fight over territory. They say human lives don't matter enough to start a war. People in the room began to talk loudly. Some were angry. Some were crying. A woman from Korea stood up with tears on her face. My daughter was on the Incheon Hope, she said. She was only 7 years old. She loved to draw pictures of stars. Now she is gone and nobody cares. President Choi raised her hand, and the room became quiet again. We care, she said. Earth cares, and Earth remembers. A woman in a white coat walked to the front of the room. This was Dr. Yoon-ji Seo. She worked for the government, but nobody knew exactly what she did. She pressed a button, and new pictures appeared on the screen. The pictures showed ships that looked impossible. They were sleek and beautiful, but covered, with weapons that seemed to come from science fiction movies. The people in the room gasped. For 30 years we have been building these ships in secret, Dr. Seo said. Not because we wanted to fight, but because we knew that someday someone would think humans were easy to kill. More pictures appeared. Underground factories, hidden shipyards, weapons that could destroy entire planets, technologies that the aliens had never seen before. We let the galaxy think we were weak, Dr. Seo continued. We smiled and talked peacefully while we prepared for the day when someone would test us. That day has come. Minister Tai Hyung-an from South Korea stood up. His voice was full of pain. My nephew was on the new Sol. He was going to be a teacher on the new planet. He wanted to help children learn about the stars. Now he will never teach anyone again. Every person who died has a name, President Choi said. Every person who died had dreams. We will not forget them. We will not let their deaths mean nothing. She pressed another button. The screen now showed a list of names. Thousands and thousands of names. Each name was written in both Korean and English. Next to each name was a picture of a person. Young faces, old faces, smiling faces of people who had hoped for a better future. Kim Soo-jin, age 8, President Choi, read from the list. She wanted to be a space explorer. Park Min-soo, age 45. He was taking his family to start a farm. Lee Hyena, age 22. She was studying to be a doctor. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was looking at the faces on the screen. These were not just numbers. These were real people with real lives and real dreams. The aliens think we are weak because we try to solve problems with words instead of weapons, General Nam said. They think we are cowards because we help each other instead of fighting each other. They are wrong. Dr. Seo showed more pictures. These showed factories all over Earth. In China, massive buildings were making new types of metal. In America, scientists were working on computers that thought faster than any alien technology. In Russia, engineers were building engines that could move ships faster than light. In Korea, workers were making weapons that could cut through any armor. Every country on Earth is working together now, Dr. Co said. For the first time in human history, we are truly united. We are united by sadness, by anger, and by love for the people we lost. President Choi walked closer to the screen. She touched one of the pictures. It showed a little girl with a big smile. This is what they killed, she said. This is what they thought was not important. They were wrong. She turned to face the room. Her eyes were hard now like steel. We will find the aliens who did this. We will make them pay for every life they took. We will make sure that no one in the galaxy ever thinks humans are easy to kill again. The meeting ended, but the work was just beginning. All over Earth, people were getting ready. Soldiers were training with new weapons. Engineers were building new ships. Scientists were creating new technologies. The peaceful blue planet that the aliens had laughed at was becoming something else, something dangerous, something that would teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Earth was waking up, and when Earth woke up angry, the stars themselves would tremble. Admiral Kraktar sat in his big chair on the command deck of his space station. The station was called Dreadbringer, and it was bigger than most cities. Through the windows, he could see his powerful war fleet floating in space like metal sharks waiting to attack. 3 months had passed since his ships had destroyed the human colony vessels. He had almost forgotten about the weak humans and their pathetic ships. The Zilithian Empire was strong, and humans were nothing more than insects. "Admiral," said his assistant, walking quickly across the metal floor. The assistant's scales were green and shiny, and he moved like a lizard. "We have lost contact with mining station Zeta 7. Kraktar did not look up from his food. He was eating something that looked like raw meat. "Equipment broken again?" "We do not know, sir. The station just disappeared. No emergency call. No pieces floating in space, just gone." Kraktar finally looked at his assistant. "Stations do not just disappear. Send a ship to check." But the ship they sent found nothing. Where mining station Zeta 7 used to be, there was only empty space and darkness. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Supply convoy Beta 9 was carrying food and weapons to the outer colonies. The convoy had 12 ships, all protected by armed guards. They were traveling through safe space that the Zilithians had controlled for 50 years. The convoy never arrived at its destination. Search ships found no wreckage, no distress signals, no clues about what had happened. 12 ships and 3,000 Zilithian soldiers had simply vanished. "This is impossible," Kraktar growled to his officers. "Ships do not disappear by magic," but they kept disappearing. Military outposts went dark without warning. Patrol fleets stopped answering radio calls. Every few days, another piece of the Zilithian Empire just stopped existing. Far away in space, Captain Jinwoo Ko watched through his telescope as another Zilithian supply depot exploded in bright flames. His ship, the Shadow of Soul, was completely invisible to enemy sensors. Human technology had made it possible for his ship to move through space without being seen, like a ghost. "Target destroyed," he said into his radio. "No survivors." Jinwoo's ship was small and fast. It carried only 50 people, but each person was a highly trained soldier. They had special medicines in their blood that made them stronger and faster than normal humans. Their weapons were designed to kill aliens efficiently and quietly. "Good work, Captain Ko," came the voice from Earth Command. "Your next target is Weapons Factory Delta 12. Make it look like an accident." Jinwoo smiled. He and his team had been hunting Zilithians for 2 months now. Every time they destroyed something, they left a small message behind. The message was always the same, a list of names from the colony ships that had been destroyed. The Zilithians were starting to understand that someone was hunting them, but they did not know who or how. Human ships were too small and too quiet for Zilithian sensors to detect. Human soldiers moved like shadows in the night, striking without warning and disappearing before anyone could fight back. On Earth, Commander Yuna Park sat in a dark room filled with computers and screens. She was in charge of psychological warfare, which meant her job was to make the enemies afraid. She was very good at her job. Send another message to the Zilithian military frequency, she told her assistant. The message was simple but terrifying. It was a recording of a little girl's voice speaking in Korean. The girl had been on the Incheon Hope when it was destroyed. Her name was Kim Minji, and she was 6 years old. My name is Kim Minji, the recording said. I like to play with my dolls and draw pictures of flowers. You killed me. Now we are coming for you. Commander Park had hundreds of these recordings. The voices of children, parents, grandparents. All of them had been on the colony ships. All of them were dead because of the Zilithians. Let them hear the voices of the people they murdered, she said. Let them know that we remember every single name. The psychological warfare was working. Zilithian soldiers were becoming afraid to go on patrol. They jumped at shadows and fired their weapons at empty space. Some of them started having bad dreams about human children calling their names in the dark. Admiral Kraktar looked at his tactical display with growing fear. Red dots on the screen showed Zilithian assets that had been destroyed or had gone missing. In 6 months, the humans had destroyed 1/3 of his empire's military infrastructure without ever fighting a direct battle. How are they doing this? He asked his officers. They are primitive. They have weak ships and simple weapons. But his officers had no answers. The humans were fighting like no enemy the Zilithians had ever faced before. They did not attack with large fleets or powerful weapons. Instead, they moved like ghosts in the night, picking off targets one by one with surgical precision. Each attack came with the same message: names of the dead colonists. The humans were keeping score, and they were collecting payment for every life that had been lost. The hunters had become the hunted, and the Zilithians were beginning to learn what it meant to be afraid. Admiral Kraktar slammed his fist on the metal table in his command room. His officers jumped back in fear. For 6 months, his empire had been falling apart piece by piece. Mysterious attacks had destroyed dozens of his ships and stations. His soldiers were afraid to leave their bases. Enough, he roared, his voice echoing through the room. I will not hide from these weak humans any longer. We end this today. He turned to his communication officer. Send orders to every ship in the Empire. Every captain, every admiral, every warrior. We gather the Grand Fleet. We will burn the human homeworld to nothing but ash and dust. The Grand Fleet was the largest military force the Zilithian Empire had ever built. 200 massive warships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. The fleet had never been defeated in battle. It had conquered 12 star systems and crushed every enemy that dared to fight the Zilithians. 3 days later, the Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. The ships came out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry metal insects. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the largest human vessel the Zilithians had ever seen. Admiral Kraktar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Destroyer. Through the main window, he could see the small blue planet called Earth spinning peacefully in the distance. Look at it, he said to his officers. So small, so quiet. After we destroy it, no one will remember that humans ever existed. But as the Zilithian fleet moved closer to Earth, something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing around the planet. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them. They seemed to come from nowhere, as if they had been hiding in the darkness of space. What are those? Asked Kraktar's second-in-command. The human ships were unlike anything the Zilithians had ever seen. They were sleek and beautiful, with smooth curves and no visible weapons. But there was something dangerous about them, like sleeping tigers, ready to pounce. On the bridge of the human flagship UES Vengeance, Admiral Kiwan Lee watched the enemy fleet approach. He was a calm man with gray hair and steady hands. He had been preparing for this moment for his entire life. Open a communication channel to the Zilithian fleet, he ordered. Admiral Kraktar's scaled face appeared on the main screen. His yellow eyes were full of confidence and cruelty. Surrender now, humans, Kraktar said with a laugh. You have 100 ships, we have 200. You cannot win. Admiral Lee looked directly into the alien's eyes. His voice was quiet but full of steel. You killed 50,000 innocent people. Men, women, children, babies. We counted every single one. Today, you learn why that was the biggest mistake of your life. Kraktar laughed again. You think you can frighten me with words? Attack if you dare. The battle began exactly 17 minutes after noon, Earth time. It was not really a battle. It was a demonstration of what happened when humans stopped being nice. The human ships moved like nothing the Zilithians had ever seen. They were faster than light itself, dancing between enemy fire as if they were performing a deadly ballet. Their hulls shimmered with strange energy that made Zilithian weapons useless. Captain Seoyan Park commanded the human ship Eternal Memory. She watched as her vessel's quantum disruptors tore through Zilithian shields like they were made of paper. The alien armor that had protected them for centuries was worthless against human technology. This is for the children of the Incheon. Hope, she whispered as her weapons destroyed another enemy ship. The Zilithian missiles, which could normally destroy entire space stations, were turned back on themselves. Human ships absorbed the enemy's energy weapons and used that power to make their own weapons stronger. Every attack the aliens made only made the humans more dangerous. Admiral Kraktar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. His ships were exploding one after another, and his weapons could not even scratch the human vessels. It was impossible. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be easy to kill. How? He whispered. How is this possible? His communication officer, bleeding from a head wound, looked up from his station. Sir, they're not even using their main weapons. These are just their defensive systems. In 17 minutes, the entire Zilithian Grand Fleet was destroyed or disabled. 200 ships that had conquered star systems were turned into floating scrap metal. Only Admiral Kraktar's flagship remained intact, its weapons offline and its engines dead. Admiral Lee's voice came through the communication system one more time. Surrender. You will stand trial for your crimes. Justice will be served. Kraktar looked around his ruined command deck. His officers were wounded or dead. His mighty fleet was gone. The humans had not just defeated him. They had made it look easy. I surrender, he said quietly. As the human ships surrounded his vessel, Kraktar finally understood the truth. Humans had never been weak. They had been patient. They had been waiting for someone stupid enough to test them. The galaxy would soon learn what the Zilithians had discovered too late. Behind humanity's peaceful smiles was a species that could become the most dangerous predators in the universe when someone they loved was threatened. The courtroom on Earth's orbital station was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Aliens with different shapes, sizes, and colors sat in rows, watching the most important trial in galactic history. At the front of the room, Judge Minji Kim sat behind a tall desk, her black robes making her look serious and powerful. In the defendant's chair sat Admiral Kraktar. The once proud Zilithian commander now looked small and defeated. His scales had lost their shine and his yellow eyes stared at the floor. Heavy metal chains held his hands and feet. Admiral Kraktar of the Zilithian hegemony, Judge Kim said in a clear, strong voice. You are charged with 50,000 counts of murder. You are charged with war crimes against civilian populations. You are charged with crimes against innocent life. She paused and looked directly at the alien. How do you plead? Kraktar's voice was barely a whisper. Guilty. The courtroom was completely silent. Many of the alien observers had expected the humans to simply execute their enemies in revenge. Instead, they had created a fair trial with lawyers, evidence, and proper legal procedures. The court sentences you to life in prison, Judge Kim announced. You will spend the rest of your days thinking about the innocent people you murdered. But the trial was only the beginning. President Sun Woo Choi stood before the Galactic Council in their great meeting hall. Behind her, through massive windows, the galaxy's representatives could see Earth's new orbital defense platforms. The platforms were beautiful but clearly powerful, like steel flowers with thorns. We never wanted to be warriors, President Choi said to the assembled aliens. We wanted to explore the stars, to learn about the universe, to make friends with our galactic neighbors. But some of you mistook our desire for peace as weakness. An alien delegate from the Arcturus system raised a tentacle. What do you want from us, humans? Ambassador Young Ho Lim stepped forward. He was a young man with kind eyes, but his voice carried the authority of Earth behind it. We want simple rules that everyone must follow. The Kepler Accords are not complicated. Civilian populations are off limits. Always. Attack innocent people and face the consequences. Director So-hee Kim activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. The display showed human ships stationed throughout known space. They were positioned at key locations, ready to respond to any threat within hours. We are not conquerors, she said. We do not want your planets or your resources. We do not want to rule over you. But if you threaten peaceful civilians, human or alien, you will discover what happens when humanity stops being polite. The display changed to show the wreckage of the Zilithian Grand Fleet. The twisted metal and broken ship served as a reminder of what had happened when someone crossed the line. An alien delegate with blue skin and 4 arms spoke up. What if we refuse to follow your rules? President Choi smiled, but it was not a warm smile. Then you will join Admiral Kraktar in prison. Or worse. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. The peaceful humans were not weak. They had simply been choosing to be kind. When that kindness was met with cruelty, they became something else entirely. On Earth, in the city of New Geneva, workers finished building a special memorial. The memorial was a wall made of black stone, and on that wall were carved 50,000 names. Each name was written in Korean and English. Next to each name was the person's age and their hometown on Earth. Every year on the anniversary of the massacre, people came from all over the galaxy to visit the memorial. They came to read the names and to understand what had happened when someone made the mistake of thinking human lives did not matter. Admiral Jiho Park, now an old man with white hair, stood before the memorial every year. He would place flowers at the base of the wall and speak to the names carved in stone. We remember, he would say. We remember Park Sujin, age 8, who wanted to be a space explorer. We remember Kim Min-soo, age 45, who was taking his family to start a farm. We remember Lee Hyena, age 22, who was studying to be a doctor. He would read hundreds of names, one by one. Each name represented a life that had been stolen, a dream that had been destroyed, a future that would never happen. Because, we remember, he would continue, it will never happen again. The galaxy had a new reality now. Humans were no longer seen as weak or primitive. They were respected and, if necessary, feared. Their ships patrolled the space lanes, protecting innocent travelers from pirates and aggressive empires. There, diplomats worked to solve conflicts with words instead of weapons, but everyone knew that behind those diplomatic smiles was a species that would not hesitate to fight if someone threatened the innocent. The Kepler Accords became the foundation of galactic law. The simple rules that humans had created spread throughout known space. Attack civilians, face consequences. Threaten the innocent, face Earth's justice. They had crossed the line. Earth had made sure no one else would ever try. In the end, the galaxy learned that the strongest people were not those who showed their strength openly, but those who won battles that others never even knew were being fought. Humanity had spent decades preparing for war while hoping for peace. When war came, they were ready. The stars themselves now whispered the warning, do not test the humans. They remember everything.